One of our skin's primary functions is to serve as a barrier to the elements. The outer layer of our epidermis, called the stratum corneum, resembles a brick and mortar structure, where the skin cells would be the bricks and the lipid barrier holding the cells together would be the mortar. This lipid barrier is composed of cholesterol, ceramides, and fatty acids. We're going to zoom in a little on the latter, the fatty acids. There are 2 fatty acids that are considered as essential. These fatty acids can't be produced endogenously, and so we have to consume these fatty acids in order to assimilate them into our bodies. These 2 fatty acids are omega-3 and omega-6. So far, so good. We know that we can obtain these quite easily from the food supply, right? But what happens if we consume far more of one than the other? What happens if we develop a fatty acid imbalance? As it turns out, this is quite a serious problem, and one that is grossly overlooked, unfortunately. If we take a few steps back in time, we will note that from an evolutionary perspective, humans consumed omega-3 and omega-6 in a 1-to-1 ratio. For most of our history on the planet, our fatty acid levels were in balance, but as the industrial food industry began to develop, something changed, and we started consuming far more omega-6 than omega-3. Not only did we develop a distorted consumption pattern with an omega-6 bias, but we actively began to reduce omega-3 consumption. Well, in Western developed societies at least. Estimates indicate that the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio in our bodies in modern times range from 20-to-1 to 50-to-1 in some urban cities. This is a drastic change from the 1-to-1 evolutionary norm indeed. But you may be asking, what difference does it make? Well, quite a lot actually. Omega-3 fatty acids are anti-inflammatory, and a large proportion of the brain is made from omega-3 fatty acids. Specifically 2 types called EPA and DHA. These omega-3 fatty acids are found in fatty fish, marine crustaceans, grass-fed dairy and beef. This is extremely important because we can only obtain EPA and DHA from these sources. Now it becomes a little complicated because vegetarians and vegans also require omega-3, and we are told that there are plant-based sources of omega-3, such as flax seeds and canola. However, plant-based omega-3 exists in a form called ALA, or alpha-linolenic acid, which has to undergo several metabolic processes to convert into EPA and DHA, making it poorly bioavailable. In fact, it's estimated that the conversion rate of ALA into EPA and DHA is only 1%. Imagine having to consume 100 times the quantity of plant-based omega-3 in order to obtain a sufficient dose. Clearly, this isn't a viable solution. There are some omega-3 extracts from marine algae that show some promise in containing suitable EPA and DHA content, but these are more difficult to source and can be very expensive. Omega-6, by contrast, is pro-inflammatory, and some of its metabolites are quite dangerous, especially when we consider that the predominant source of our omega-6 these days is from linoleic acid, which is the main component of many industrially processed so-called vegetable oils, such as canola, sunflower, safflower, rapeseed, cottonseed, corn, and soybean oil. These are actually all seed oils that are extracted through several industrial processes that subject the rancid sludge produced from the seeds into a highly refined end product that has been heated, deodorized, placed under high pressure, and sometimes hydrogenated. The various processes that the oils are subjected to create trans fats and make the oils highly unstable. In fact, polyunsaturated oils by nature are unstable because the double bonds on each carbon in their structure is prone to oxidation. When these seed oils are metabolized, the byproducts include acrolein, malondialdehyde, hydroxy-4-nonenal, and other compounds that are directly mutagenic, cytotoxic, inflammatory, and carcinogenic. The propensity of these oils to oxidize is easily understood if you have ever noticed the sticky residue that often forms on the lips of these oil bottles. This is the oxidized oil that rapidly becomes rancid on exposure to oxygen. And these sticky residues become extremely difficult to remove from the body because the omega-6 assimilates into our system and becomes part of every cell membrane. Poor quality omega-6 increases the oxidation risk, and the vast quantities of these oils that we are exposed to in the food supply distort the balance of fatty acids in our bodies. So now that you know that the fatty acid imbalance is a red flag, how does it manifest into skin conditions? Acne is one of the skin conditions strongly associated with a fatty acid imbalance. In remote societies that live off an ancestral diet high in fish and low in processed foods, acne is almost non-existent. Acne tends to increase in populations that eat more processed foods with linoleic acid. If you are wondering to what extent linoleic acid is consumed, the answer may shock you. Prior to the 20th century, the average intake of linoleic acid per person was under 2% of the total daily caloric intake. Bear in mind that meals were also much smaller back then. Today, it is estimated that we consume as much as 40 to 50% of our total caloric intake from linoleic acid due to the presence of seed oils in almost all processed foods. Not to mention that meal sizes have dramatically increased as well. Considering the risks that metabolites of linoleic acid pose, it is a major risk factor for increased inflammation and oxidative stress, which characterize the underlying state of acne sufferers. There are also studies that demonstrate that supplementation with omega-3 in order to bring the fatty acid ratio closer to balance results in improvements in acne lesions. It is also worth noting that there is almost a complete absence of skin cancer, cardiovascular disease, and other chronic diseases in societies that do not consume processed foods high in linoleic acid. The famous LA veteran study that was designed to showcase vegetable oil's ability to reduce heart disease demonstrated that the group that consumed the corn oil experienced lower serum LDL levels. What they failed to publish was that this group also experienced dramatically higher mortality and cancer rates. Bringing your fatty acid ratio into balance is a critical decision to improve not only your skin health, but your overall health. Remember, everything is connected. If you are experiencing a skin condition, it's usually a reflection of something deeper occurring internally. We can't separate our skin from our body because everything is connected. So take more omega-3 supplements, eat more fatty fish and seafood, stop consuming industrial seed oils, and switch to more natural fats like grass-fed butter, ghee, organic cold-pressed coconut, olive, avocado, and palm fruit oil. Or if you like, grass-fed or pastured tallow and lard are also a healthier choice. This topic is discussed in much greater detail in my book, The Skin Consult. There are also strategies to employ in order to generate the best results possible with a broad and holistic approach.